microphones testing. You hear me now?
Yes, ma'am, I can hear
Okay,
you.
that was
Good
fine. I was
evening.
talking to you before, but I don't know why my microphone muted, but hey.
Oh no, because I was playing the countdown,
Oh, I
but
see.
since
Okay.
we're live
As
now.
long as it was you, then you know, because my phone is new and it's good. So I was like, okay. Okay.
No, yeah, that was the intro, but now we're live. So welcome everyone. We're back, and I know it's been a couple of weeks, but life happens, and as the younger generation says, life be life, and so, but we're back, and my guest tonight again is no one other than Veronica. Um, I just want to go ahead and touch bases, with you on, we'll continue our conversation because I respect you. You're part of the Clubhouse family. You come in on Saturdays for the most part. You've been with us for 2+ years now.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the one thing that I always tell you, the reason why I do respect you is because we do have a lot of people that are well able bodies, and they don't have any, I guess if you want to say, quote unquote, disability, but they still make excuses on why they can't do things. They still make excuses on why everything is so hard and why, they should just really give up. And with you having low vision, you still you still go to work, you still do other things that a lot of people want to say that they cannot do. So with
Mm-hmm.
that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and stop talking, and I'm gonna pass the mic over to you and see how you doing today, Miss Veronica.
Hi, Swalo. Yeah, thanks for having me back on. And yeah, living life. So, I mean, not like I went traveling or anything, at least not not now, not since the few weeks have passed, but I'm doing good. Went for a walk today with somebody sighted, a family member and my dog, and this spring day. I can tell spring is around the corner, and taking advantage of that. And work today, had a few meetings, a training session as well, and yeah, and then I've danced this week, and starting up again. So I mean, I can share the sort of activities that I've done before and that come to mind. Because yeah, growing up, that mindset was usually, and the people around me, like my family, my teachers, my closest teacher assistants, and ITVI, they're known as, so itinerant teacher for the visually impaired, that usually the motto was, you can do anything you want, you just got to find a workaround. And I remember being quite offended when kids in the schoolyard told me that I couldn't do something because I couldn't see. And it was kind of like, well, what do you mean I can't do it because I can't see? I was quite insulted by that. um, and yeah, was always one to just, move forward. I, used to, this wouldn't be recommended, but I mean, I used to leave my cane inside at school for a number of years up until I was 10 or 11, until some of my teachers forced me to take it outside. But uh, I remember in kindergarten, my teacher assistant, who I don't think was as experienced of working with, special needs kids, but to me, I didn't know the difference, and I just, she was like, yeah, you can, leave your cane inside and go outside for recess. Like it was just something normal, and I would be outside, and even though I see light and I have light perception, I would put my arms up in front of me. They would call it like the bumper arms. So if something, I would kind of hit my arms first. I could see that something was there, but I didn't see the shape. And depending on the lighting, sometimes I'd see it further away, sometimes closer. And I knew every like square inch of the schoolyard. I knew exactly where everything was. Go to the park, walk around by myself without the cane, complete spatial knowledge. I know there are a lot of people that have, difficulty understanding spaces, and even some that are born blind. But for me, it was not only did it come naturally, but it was like an enhanced ability and like a muscle, that I kind of just not even worked on, but just sort of developed over time. and it was just a normal thing. And then, towards the end of elementary school, when I was forced to take out my cane, begrudgingly I took it out, but then I would, have it folded, and then other kids would try to help me find it again in the schoolyard, or tried using it for golf sometimes, as a good way of releasing my annoyance at having to have a cane and to need it. I know there's a lot of people who are low vision that are feel as a cane being as a sort of, well, it's like a flag post, right? Showing, your disability and your flaw
Mhm.
and your vulnerability. So it's not something that most people have it proudly. I can speak to that by speaking to other people and other blind guys who actually avoided using the cane. And I heard of a story where there was a guy who was totally blind who, uh, was in the band in high school and hated his cane so much, and one time fell off the stage because he didn't bring his cane with him.
Wow.
So sometimes accidents could happen, but it just goes to show you how much, nobody wants that sort of designation right away. Be like, hey, look at me, I can't see. And that's something hard to contend with really any disability, especially any visible disability, right? You can see it as a weakness, as again, a flaw, and that you're kind of the bottom of the barrel, and that nobody's really going to want you because you are disabled. So, so there was always, that, and so, along with that, and like, so as a result, I always wanted to achieve and do things because I want people to see me for me and not my disability. It does, help you become who you are, but it doesn't define you, right? And trying to work through that sort of identity and through high school and just over time, and which aspects are kind of more of your visual impairment coming through, and which is just like you as a person. And so, when my parents at least would sign me up to a fair bit of extracurricular activities, for my sister too, but I think I did even more, to be honest. And I think the first one was swimming. I did swimming lessons for 5 years, every Thursday, and I went up to level 9. There was 12, so I had to do the front roll and the front crawl, and overall I liked it. There were some things I hated to do or was scared of, but it was always like, well, just try it. If they saw I didn't like it, they didn't really push me on it, which I was glad. I've had some scary moments in the pool, not gonna lie. Sure, like a lot of kids have, and especially being underwater and not hearing or having any senses happening can really scare you. Really quite frightening, and then try not to have like a panic attack or anxiety attack when you're under the water and you're trying to find the surface and you're going
Now,
around in
that
circles,
one
which has happened.
that one, I couldn't imagine. I
Oh
couldn't imagine
yes.
that
Oh
one.
yes. It absolutely terrified me. I once I thought I was already starting to drown, and I don't know what wave came over, because it was when I was playing games at the end of one lesson, me and this other girl who we were like around 9. And there were like these kind of like boards, like you could say like a meter long or a few feet long, and you would stand on it and you can jump off or whatever. And anyway, I fell off, and somehow this wave happened because I was in the deep end, and I was just standing on the ground, like I couldn't move. And I was like, this is interesting but kind of scary. I'm like, why can't I go up? And because there was so much movement on top of the water that I guess I wasn't able to really break the surface. And I knew I had to kind of hold my breath and try to save it. But at some point, my lungs were burning, and when I was taking in water, it felt it almost felt like a relief because I just had to breathe in air. And instead, I was taking in water, and eventually, by my like sheer will, I broke the surface eventually, and I think I spat out like at least a liter of water. All that, it was like pent
Wow.
up. And I was so annoyed. I told this wasn't my instructor, but it was a different one. I don't think she even really noticed. And I was like, you didn't come and save me?" She's like, "Oh, I saw you were like struggling, but I wanted to see if you could do it." And I thought to myself, yeah, right. So anyway, sparing any you know, sharp words for this podcast, but I was, upset, but I didn't tell really my parents or anything. It's not something you really go and, tell. I mean, I just knew for myself that it was like a wow, I survived moment, even though I was in the pool, but yeah, being in a place where you don't have any of your senses and having to, go through that and being really scared in the meantime, and trying to think through that fear. And, it's a similar situation with horseback riding, although at least I never fell off, but a couple times the horse started to run and trying to kind of like I was afraid, but trying to calm down the big animal at the same time. Yeah, it teaches you something about fear, Um, and to try to, even if you feel it, try to like still think through it, um, at least to some extent, whatever you can, and yeah, so there were situations where I was, crossing really busy streets downtown where you hear all these cars coming from different directions and you're trying to, comprehend the traffic pattern just by hearing. And almost panicking on the middle of an intersection with which a lot of people who are low vision or totally blind have definitely come across. Especially, I mean, you can imagine anybody could be scared or anxious when crossing streets, but even more so when you're lacking that sense. And but continuing on with the sports, I did like I said, a lot of sports. So that was a swimming there for 5 years. And then
But
I've done
I'm gonna
yeah.
I want to ask you something about the swimming because I do know a lot of people they want to say, "Oh, you know what? I'm too scared to swim." And again, these are well-able bodies and they are afraid to swim.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Three-quarters of the planet is water. And I would recommend if there's any sport, I would recommend to get your, kids or immersed in or young at least to get acquainted with and to try it even for a year or two is swimming. I think that's one of the most important life skills you can have. You never know if you'll be in a situation where you got to at least literally stay afloat. And I know if there are powerful, waves and forces out in nature, it may not have a shot, but at least giving yourself a fighting chance. And that's what I've always done for myself, right? Keeping doors open or give yourself a fighting chance if need be. You need that breathing room, and that is a super important just skill to have is swimming. I mean, I have nephews and we have like family members that have pools and we go swimming there in the summertime. And for my nephews, it's always like keep your mouth closed or whatever, but at least the basic stuff, other people in the family try to teach them to. And it's important, right? It's all about exposure. So yeah, no, I know a lot of people can be afraid to swim, but start slow, start easy. But again, in my case, swimming without seeing, and when I would swim, I would eventually had to swim to the wall. And thankfully, I would see enough to know when the wall was coming. Because if I didn't at all, then you could ram yourself very easily head first into the wall while you're doing a front crawl. I mean, there was a teacher always around me, but that can save you from some, I'm sure, concussions. So, um, but yeah, I mean, I've been to the ocean. My first time was when I was 10, in the waves and stuff like that. And, usually I still like to take a noodle or something, it's still nice. But if I have to, I can, swim on my own. But yeah, it's crucial, I would say. Like, it's a really important thing to have that knowledge and that skill to swim.
I think so as well. So, but thank you for that. I just, like I said, I just wanted to, talk about that a little bit more because, like I said, I do know a lot of people, they say,
Yeah.
"Oh no, I'm not swimming. I'm so afraid of water," and I'm like, "But why are you so afraid?" But
I don't know. I don't know if it's what they see or if it's based on just the feeling or the unknown. Try swimming without seeing it. I mean, maybe that will take away the visual fear, but and then you'll just have to feel. I think, and that's the thing that I've learned a lot with about fear as well over the years and with difficult emotions. It's not easy, and even there's some moments that even me, I may struggle with it, but you gotta feel. The more you feel, in general, whether it's like just touch for your body or certain emotions that are uncomfortable, you will be way better off because you just have to feel. Like, take it easy, and it's all based on feeling. More than I think people realize, actually.
Wow. Thank you for that. Thank
Yeah.
you. Because I mean, that's
Maybe we're all afraid to feel. I don't know. It's
and some
so,
people are, but some
yeah,
people are. Some
yeah,
people are. They are so afraid to feel.
yeah, yeah. Whether it's, uncomfortable emotions or, it's usually you discuss in therapy or just what have you, or just the feeling of something. Um, yeah, I think that's one of those senses that we underestimate and people don't realize and don't think, even me before I didn't think of, but the whole afraid to feel. It's a big lesson.
It
It's a really
is.
big lesson.
That it is. That it is. Wow. Maybe there's something we need to talk about Saturday when we meet. I don't know. I don't
We'll
know.
be definitely okay with that. Yeah. That
Yeah.
can be a theme,
Yeah.
not being afraid to feel.
Yeah.
Oh boy, that can carry in a lot of aspects in life, I think,
It can.
especially nowadays, but in more ways than one. Like,
Yeah. The emotions, the emotional side of it is
mhm.
yeah.
Because if, in my case, when I don't see, I feel it even more. People may see something and sort of their sight takes over, right? Or they can get distracted. But in my case, there isn't much to distract me. If you can't see, well, and if you're in a situation, all you can do is really feel. I mean, yeah, you hear and smell, but predominantly that sense of feeling is going to be double, because you don't have anything even visual to distract you or to make an assessment, right? Make an assessment to know, is this safe? Is this not safe? You are literally having to go in with your feelings and with what you feel and just navigate that. How many times, I mean, even for simple stuff, but if I'm somewhere like I've been told I can be a kind of a picky eater, and I do acknowledge that. But if I'm somewhere and even if it's food I'm not aware of, like usually people can visually see like, oh, that looks good. But for me, I'm like asking a million questions. Okay, what is in this food? How is it? Do I think I'm gonna like it? Because there are times when I tried food and I couldn't stand the texture or the taste, and I'm like, And so in that way, sometimes even me, I can be a little afraid to try or worry unless if I'm like, do you want to finish my food just in case? Or just especially going on roller coasters. I've been on six before in my life, and I've been on other like rides and other amusement parks, and that one will be a big one. Like, I'm not a roller coaster person. I've been on like six when I went to Wonderland in Toronto for a grade 8 field trip, and my teacher assistant went on with me. And for every ride, because my friends would just go off together, and I was with the teachers, so we got all of the free passes because me being visually impaired, we got like 7 or 8 free passes. So there I was with all the teachers because, other 14-year-old kids wouldn't be there as patient probably and as, able to describe every minute detail of the ride, while I was waiting in line. How does it look like? Does it look fast? Does it look, upside down? Does it, every analysis starts to go in. And my teacher would try to describe to me, and I would get so anxious. And people get anxious even when they see it, but like, to me, it feels like to me, it's like double, because I'm going based on what people tell me. And on the ride, she told me, she was like, you know what, I'll give you my hand. So we were always holding hands because her explanation was that, other people see that there's other people on the ride with them. So even if they're scared, they see others. But in my case, I don't even see, and I may forget. So I at least have that touch. And it seemed like a simple gesture, but it meant a lot. And I was always like, okay, give me your hand. And as though I wasn't alone. And let's just say the next day she had marks and bruises on her hand, but
Yeah.
she was totally cool with it.
Wow. Wow.
I
Okay.
was probably squeezing that hand without even realizing it with all the turns and everything, but it was but I felt that security, right? And but again, right, when you think of people and they're afraid, when you're really afraid, I know for me, you want to touch somebody, I almost want to cuddle, I want to really know someone is there, or like have that feeling, right? That comfort. And right, and a lot of people will, sometimes I don't know, I don't say grab a teddy bear or something, to sort of hold. And when babies are young and when they're born, right, that's the first really sense that comes in is touch and feel.
Yeah. Wow. See, you really brought something up. So I don't know. I hope that you are on time Saturday. So yeah.
I will join, even for a bit, but I will.
Yeah, so we can talk about this more Saturday when we meet. Yeah. Okay. So, wow, this is really really interesting.
And deep, yeah, no, it is. And 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 yeah, so then, with I guess I can continue talking about sports and and fear and things like that. But I so I did swimming and I did piano for 2 years, 2 to 2.5 years, about every Saturday. And the teacher would throw twice a year, like these mini concerts, but it was for her students and their family members and their friends. So it wasn't anything extensive, but it usually was in a church environment, like a I don't know, Baptist church or something. And I didn't go more than grade three in piano. I did start like in grade seven, and then a couple of years later, I started high school. So then exams and stuff and priorities went somewhere else. But I did do that, and then trying to play while feeling the keyboard fast enough, to hit the right note at the right time. And there is actually music braille because I read braille, so there's different kinds of braille. There's grade one braille, grade two braille, music braille, and math braille. There's so many brailles, and yes, there's a lot of different braille for different languages, by the way. Um, I knew the three, grade one, grade two, and math, but and I will describe that in a second. But for the purposes of still like being coherent, the music braille, I'm like, how people can't like read braille while they're playing, because if you see, you can just see the notes and play. But here, like, to stop and try to find it with your hands, I'm like, that means you'd have to just really rely on your hearing, right? And what you kind of think should be the next note. So a lot of it just goes on memory and, things like that. So it's always for me has been memory, 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 using, my mind. Um, and I've been told I have a pretty good memory. And I've even remembered things for other people because they're like, remember this for me. So anyhow, so I did that, and then like I said, I did horseback riding for, I would say, almost 3 years. I was getting ready to practice for jumping. Um and I was even learning the long jump versus high jump, and did trot poles and so on. And but I didn't follow through with that to the end, only because I hit grade seven and the schedule didn't work out. Like the teacher, I would always go on Sundays, but she could only teach Tuesday evenings, and it was like half an hour drive each way, plus with homework, 4 classes a day. It was just too much, especially for me because I need extra time, whether I'm using my computer with my screen reader, um, or just all the braille, especially math. Math just took up the most time, no matter what. Math was hard and atrocious. I was really good at one area in math, but usually it was, challenging, like I know it is for a lot of people. So you can imagine in braille how it's like, because people would always say like math is very visual, very visual. I'm like, oh, really? And I'm just always having to feel it with my hands and the dots, and you know, um, I couldn't just quickly draw out something if it didn't work out. There, you tried to, f- I don't know, figure it out in your mind again and all of the possibilities, and it was just, yeah, that one always took the most time. So, so anyhow, but yeah, I was practicing for that. I did some dressage, which is basically you can ride on the horse sideways, and did some little like exercises on the horse. Some I like, some, were always a bit scary, but it was always I never, if I was even a bit afraid, I didn't always really even share with the teachers. It was kind of like, okay, let's do this, and I just kind of went with it.
And that's
Um,
amazing.
even though
That's
maybe I should have said something more, but I
the
wouldn't. I just felt like I had to go with it, even if I was afraid.
but that's the reason why, I wanted to talk to you about, doing the things that you do because like you just said, even if you were afraid, no one knew and you still did it. You
Yeah,
still did it. You don't let things stop you from you exploring life.
yeah. At least to try it. It's hard,
Right.
but it's be like, okay, if I try it, I can always say no, but it was always, yeah, just something that was already more ingrained in me, I guess, and maybe something that I was did, but yeah, it's so it wasn't always easy, but yeah, I did it. Like sometimes a horse would trot and I would sit sideways. They call it lady seat. Like women used to ride back then on their horses, usually sideways because of their dresses.
Mhm.
And I was like, thank God for pants. And going forward, but people don't realize that, they take their cars and everything for granted, but back then I think people had to do a lot more things that were scarier and, you know, I guess had to deal with it. Maybe in some ways it wasn't healthy, but at least you tried it. And over time, um, for different things in life, I at some point did start looking into therapy, or at least a little bit, some kinds of therapies and getting more acquainted with the topic of, say, fear and just emotions for my own sake, self growth, and, because it can build up, the more you resist it or the more you become afraid to feel, it really can and it does build up. And I'm like, this is not healthy. I did not feel healthy. And I'm like, no, I gotta change the perspective here. It was a complete internal shift. And that is really, really important. If you want to do anything for your self-care and yourself, learn more about yourself and how you feel and maybe why you feel when you feel it, and just be better at that because it will save you a lot of stress, not just even time, but just your relationships in life will change and be better because you then deal with less crap. And when you see that in people and you're like, no, I'm not in that place, and you know, I just can't, then yeah, it will save you and your mental health. So, and it's always a lifelong journey, right? We talk about the process, but that's definitely part of it. Um, and that's an emotion, especially fear, that I've always kind of, I want to say, had on my shoulder, like even at school for small things. It's like if you need an assignment changed, well, go and talk to the teacher, use your voice. So I'd go and talk with a teacher if there was an assignment that was too visual, and would say, because I went to a regular school with other sighted people, I didn't go to a special school. Always. So I'm used to being around everybody else who is sighted. So that's why no was never an answer. People, if I said no, it almost became a why, and explain myself. I was like, geez, just because I don't want something, and anyway, so sometimes maybe one was pushed too much, but as a result, I guess in a lot of those ways I don't regret it because then at least I got to learn things and try, even if it was math for university. They were like, listen, you probably won't go into math in university, but if you're going to go into university, you need these courses. So there I went, right? I had to make it work with my teacher assistant of what are we going to do? And you're looking at charts, you're looking at diagrams. I had to make those in Braille. My exams, I had to plot points on a graph, and then you put like they called it sticky wiki, which was really funny, but it was like a thing out of wax, and you would put it along the dots, and you would see how it curved, and based on that I would write my response for math. And there's no way I could do all that on the computer, but it was tactile, and for me that was visual, and that's how you would do it. And or geography, right? I had tactile maps, and I had to do tests where I had to try to memorize the shapes of the country just like people. and do that. And I got pretty good results actually. So, I'm a visually impaired person, but I'm a visual learner, which throws a lot of people off because then they're like, what do I explain? How much do I say? What do you want me to tell you? Some people are better describing
Wait a
at
minute.
it than others.
Wait a minute. You said you are a visual learner?
Yeah, yep, you heard me correctly. I am a visual learner. That's one of my dominant ways of learning. I, even though I don't picture things that well, because it's been a long time since I saw, since I was 4. But yeah, I have to kind of picture something, to whatever extent for me to
Okay,
understand it.
gotcha. It makes sense. It-
Yep.
That's why I was like, wait a minute, wait a minute. I had to ask you about that because I was like,
Yep.
okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. 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 Because for me, like say if I was doing orientation and mobility, which is where when the special teacher teaches you like how to get somewhere, they would tell me like to your left is this, to your right is this, or kind of plot out a map so that I can really understand it at least visually, at least to have that. Maybe everybody around me was like that, and they are, and therefore that's how I'm like too, but that is really, the case. So, I mean, I would say I'm like visual learner, hands-on, and kind of like like story learning. So if you share a story, then I'll learn from that too. But those are my strengths. Um, but anyhow, so that was, so those were the things I had to do at school. So again, and actually, I mean, I mentioned only some of the sports so far, but I will add that in gym class, that was a big one too, because some of my like especially for me was well, grade 9, the first year of high school, every week for gym we did a different sport. So badminton, um geez, I don't know. There were like so many, but a soccer, basketball, whatever, volleyball, and and I was, in the regular class, and I mean, at least I was there, and I got, points for being there, of course, and with basketball, I mean, I couldn't really play, with people when it was time, but during the exercises I could do it, or sometimes my teacher assistant would actually be there with me. She always called me her fountain of youth. She was 20 years older. She's like, "You're my fountain of youth." She's like, "I'm doing everything here and I'm, keeping me young, and active." So, sometimes we would be there, always together. And she had like a string, kind of like yeah, like a couple feet long, you could say, and attached to like her waist and to my wrist, so I never went far away from her. And so sometimes when we were, if we had to say do basketball or volleyball, then, we would always be like close to each other. And the most I could do was throw, and then she would catch for me. But we made it work. And thankfully, I didn't have any balls in my face, although once I got a basketball in the eye, and that was when I threw it at the net and it came right back at me in grade 4. And that was very painful, but I was very fortunate I did not have a bruise. And that was very hard. Yeah, so but with volleyball and for the test I had to learn all of the 30 gestures, and there was no exceptions, no excuses. Um and even now I see some people who are visually impaired that their teachers will say, "Oh no, they won't do this or won't do that." But for me, at least the people around me, that was that was never an option. Um, so, and with running, it was the same thing. Like we were just running and attached there with the cord. For soccer, like that, I really couldn't really do. But I do have it's called a tandem bike. So it's a bike for 2 people. And she'd be in the front and I'd be in the back. And we went biking for a whole month that last year, which was really nice for a whole, for the whole time, that whole period you should so yeah, I have a tandem bike, which I've biked on before. I did cross country running in grade 8. I was the last one to come in, but at school they mentioned the first guy who was first place and then me at the end, that even though I came in last, they still acknowledged me. which was special. And then I did downhill skiing 2 years, and for that, it was part of a program called Ski Hawks, and there was two women, and one woman would be in front of me, and she actually had to she actually had to ski backwards, because she had to always see me, and there was a woman behind me, so the one behind me would go forward, and then the one in front of me was always going backwards. I can't imagine doing that, but every week she would go backwards in front of me, never losing sight of me. And yeah, and I never hit a tree. I can say that, and they even
Thank
one
God,
time
'cause
had
you didn't hit a tree.
I never hit a tree, no.
Right?
I was very fortunate. Yeah, I barely fell too. I was determined to stay on my feet, especially if you're going fast down an icy slope. I really didn't want to plateau there or do flips. So, yeah, talk about being afraid. Yeah. At sometimes she actually had like a ski pole, and I must admit I did feel more comfortable. Like there were a lot of times I skied without holding on to it, and maybe to some people it feels freeing. To me, it felt a little bit more on the side of reckless, dangerous, to be honest. But she did have a ski pole, so sometimes she would actually put out her ski pole, and I would hold on to the end part of it. She would still tell me like left, right, or straight, but I would hold on to the end, and that at least made me feel a lot better. Because again, I had that touch, I had that point of reference. It's all about the touch. If I have touch, I feel way better. So, you know, um, there was that, but yeah, we one time we went kind of like we did like going around hurdles, and I got I guess they called it a participation medal, which I laughed, but I still took it. I still took it, and it was nice. I didn't fare that badly actually, but where I did get actual medals was in Taekwondo. That I got two silvers and a bronze, and I did Taekwondo, and I uh, I took I was in a class that was all for special needs kids. The guy was called Master Lee. He's South Korean, and there was like 40 of us, but we all had our own like personal instructor. And so we did taekwondo, and that's not a contact sport, but I did break a few boards during the to pass on for the next belt. So I did break a few boards, which I was told I could do it, use it for a good bonfire. And I don't remember or know exactly to what belt I went, but I went to like a few colors at least. And then you add the sort of stripes. But I was in a few championships, and that's where I got the medals from. Um and yeah, I felt very, very proud, very proud, impressed. And there's a lot of different paths my life could have taken too. Like Master Lee was so impressed with me that he was like Olympics 2012, but I a year or two before, again, I was going to university, and I was like, I did taekwondo for like 3 years, and now what I'm gonna do, so I had a tendency to try a sport for a few different years, and then I wanted to try the next thing. I always like to try something new, or I don't know, I'm always drawn to doing more. Okay, now what do I want to do? But I go far in whatever I do, and I give it my all.
And
And
that's
people
the
were
way
always
it
impressed.
that's the way it should be. Always trying something new. Now, just not
Yeah,
settling because there's too
it's
many things in life to try, too many
yeah,
things in life to do. And until you start trying things, how will you really know what
yeah,
you really like? So,
yeah.
yeah, so we've been in here 39 minutes already, so time flies, right?
It does, especially when I have so much to share about my life. I could almost
Oh,
write a book about it.
well, we still have time to come on here again and do more episodes. So, like I said, I just had to slow down for a couple of weeks, take care of some other things. Now, we're back. We're back doing the self-care awareness, and yeah, like I said, Veronica, we can come back this week if you have time.
I'm
Um,
too busy this week, but as usual, but I know we can set something up for sure in the future, and I can continue.
right, because like I said, so self-care awareness. And you mentioned self-care awareness, and you mentioned the process, because these are things we always talk about, trusting the process, going through the process. Everyone's process is different. Now, before we get ready to get out of here, because I don't want this to cut us off, that's why I want to go ahead and get ready to end it soon. But before we get ready to get out of here, is there anything that you would like to tell the people on YouTube, Instagram, wherever this may end up at, about not living in fear and understanding that life is to be lived and not to be feared?
Yeah, I would say keep trying, even if it is one step at a time, at least you are moving forward, be opportunistic. That's the only way you're going to grow and learn, and just I feel like just be happy. You know, we're not meant to sit here in the four walls, and learn more about fear. It's always a journey, but learn more about it, get a bit more familiarized with it, and you will be better for it. And just to learn to feel with whatever area that may be in your life that you need to explore more.
Learn to feel. Yeah, like I said, we're gonna have to talk about that feel thing on Saturday. So I can't wait till you show up in the room on Saturday. So, but anyway, y'all, with that being said, like I said, I want to get off here before it cuts us off, and then I don't want to lose it. So um all right. So anything else you want to say? You want to say before we get ready to get out of here until we meet again? You know,
Until we meet again.
yeah, until we meet again, everyone stay safe. And you know me and my saying, love your life on purpose for your purpose. And just get out there and work your purpose, because somebody needs your purpose and we all have a purpose. So yeah, until we meet again, y'all stay safe and stay blessed.